break it down to understand who are really the big users of our energy. And I said to them, I said, if you look at yours, probably the one that you're worried about and probably our political leaders are worrying about maybe less than 20% of your revenue. And that one is not a problem. You can fix it. We did it, and we put what we term as a lifeline tariff. That takes care of the very low end of the economy. And the rest that really want to make sure that, when they open the tap, it's going. And these are commercial and industrial customers. And when you look at, if you ask them, then for them, the continuity of supplies is very critical because, and I said, to them, the cost of water is input into their production, and they will be able to recover from the market differently in terms of their cost. And so, but they are the ones too that are the big users. And it's very critical that you need to tariff them properly so that, that you can sustainably run the operation moving forward. And I guess the other thing too, I recommend look at well, I can say from FEA. Now with EFL, it's a bit different in terms of ownership, but from FEA's time, when you look at the way it's set up in terms of its tariff, you can basically replicate a lot of things that FEA in those days and even with AFL now to try to mirror it. The reason being, the customers that are out there recognizes these tariff structures, they understand, and you won't cause any major issues in trying to implement it. And of course, a big part of that is to make sure that you do a big communication to the public in terms of what you're trying to do based on your strategic plan and why you have to do all these things and why you have to set it up to be a commercial entity that can sustain itself properly. And without that, unfortunately, we will continue to have this and it will get worse because the demand is continuing to increase. You've got an aging asset and you need to look after the backbone of your water infrastructure because when that goes, the downstream, it doesn't matter, it will go. And so it's critical that you invest. I'm glad that you've done some investment in terms of your water sources, but I guess the biggest challenge is your backbone. What are you going to do to repair that for what you have now and particularly dealing with the growth moving forward? And I guess that is very similar to your sewerage system. And so these are some of the things that if I was in their shoe, I will surely work hard to try to get the entity fully corporatized and set up properly. And again, you don't have to look too far. You've got another utility that's very similar type of service that we have in the country. That's EFL. I said we'll be happy to help you out in whatever ways. And also there's a lot of opportunity that we can work together. And I know I did encourage them that they can do a feasibility study on having floating solar on their biggest dam. I said that way you're beginning to have another income stream and can help you on doing what you're doing. And again, in certain areas which we did before when I was around, is putting a turbine on Waturu Dam. So before it gets into the treatment plant, there's a turbine and you generate energy out of that. So there's a lot of things that we can do together in the planning side because again, the two utilities are very similar in a lot of ways. And even if we're courageous enough, we'll say, how come we still have two different teams reading meters? Why can't we just bring those functions together? Because they're going to the same location anyway. Let's look at technology. So those are some of the things that can be refined as you're moving forward. The other thing too, once you're set up properly commercially, then the ADBs, the World Bank, all these financial institutions, they look at you and say, okay, this is a different animal altogether. We're dealing with a properly commercially set up entity, and we know that sustainability in terms of their repayment and so on into the future will be okay. And you don't have to wait for the government to decide what budget you're going to get each year for your operating expenditure and for your capital expenditure and so on. So I want to leave it at that, and I'll be